So in that light, I wanted to discuss the idea of mastery today because, I have this thing, mastering composition, mastering loose brushwork, mastering vibrant color. So what do we really mean by this idea of mastery? And I mean, practically speaking, for you and I, because originally, as I mentioned before, it comes from the idea of the guilds, of their various crafts and professions. And if it's a craft anyway, you would create a masterpiece, which is the piece you present to the various masters, the people that are in the guild, to attain entry. And it's just a piece for them to see that you're good enough to be in the club. But it's not like once you've produced it, that's it. You kind of hang it up and you're good enough. It just got you into the club, right? Now you've got the rest of your life to progress and to expand on it. So, but this idea of mastery for us, where and what would that really, what would be the gist of it? Because mastery is kind of an intimidating idea, right? We normally think of it as like a product, a final product, an achievement, a goal that, oh, that's a master. And it's a little on the static side. But what we need to realize is that mastery is a path you travel on. It's not a place you arrive at, because nobody arrives at the end of mastery. Because wherever you arrive at, there's always more. There's always more. You could say, oh, if I could only paint as well as so-and-so, you're at some show and you see somebody's painting you like, and you say, oh, I could just paint as well as them, or you listen to somebody play guitar, oh, if I could only play like that. But the point is, when you got that, at the time, you think, oh, it's enough better than me that if I got there, I'd be happy. But the point is, you would be learning so much in the process of getting there that when you got there, it clearly wouldn't be enough anymore. It would seem like I'm just getting started now. So again, it's this idea that mastery is not an end result. It's a way of thinking. It's an attitude towards practice. So in mastering composition, in the courses, we looked at structure and we looked at design and we looked at drawing and brushwork and color. We looked at all these different things. And you realize, man, to really get good at painting, there is a lot to get good at, right? It's like learning another language. So the thing is, there are some things you realize you don't need to master them. All you want is a functional proficiency in them. So let's take two examples, driving and typing. So most of us do both, right? So think of the proficiency you have in driving. So, it's fine. You drive the car to the mall and you buy your groceries and you come home. Your day-to-day, it's fine. You never question it. You don't really think about it. You seldom sit there thinking, I really need to learn to take high-speed corners better, because it's functionally a useless skill. You can't use it. If you were a Formula One driver, well, then obviously you would not have wanted to stop in the growing proficiency of your ability to drive. You'd be out there practicing high-speed corners every day. Or typing's another example. Most people, I think an average typer is like 40 words a minute. I think at 60, you're pretty good. At 80, you're really good. I don't really know, but this is, I looked it up. So mastery, supposing you wanted a job, and to get that job, you had to be able to type 80 words a minute. So you would then focus, and I don't know if you ever took touch typing lessons, but there was all these really deliberate exercises that built your finger things up. And they were deliberate practice, and you would just continue with that deliberate practice till you got to 80 words a minute. But the point is, most of us, unless you sort of had a job where you got up to that number, we stay at around 40 because it's good enough, it's decent, it's functional. We plateau at a serviceable level. And at that point, our deliberate practice turns off, our learning turns off, and we just stay where we're at. So it's a really good example of the role and the value of deliberate practice in getting better, because you're practicing typing all the time. You're typing emails every day, but you're not getting any better because you're not deliberately trying to improve. That you've sort of turned off the mindset of mastery because you don't need it. But it just shows that practice itself isn't enough. It's not the answer. And the other thing, I mean, you need a deliberate focus in that practice. And the other thing is that you need to focus on the foundational pieces that your whole practice are built on. So I remember watching this video one time of Isaac Perlman giving like a master class, as it happens, to these young violin players, and they'd all won gold medals in international competitions. They were obviously insanely good and talented. And he was showing them how to hold the bow, how to hold the just get it. They were focusing on that. Now, I'm sure they didn't spend the whole week learning how to hold the bow. They must have gone on to interpretational things at some point. But the point is, you have to start at the foundation. And it makes me think of when I took ballroom dancing lessons years ago. And let's say the foxtrot, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And you learn all these parts, and then you sort of like do 1, 2, 3, and then you try to get the next 1, 2, 3, and you do it like that. And you're counting the thing in your head. And I remember arriving early one day, and the two instructors just happened to be dancing a foxtrot together. And I realized they're doing exactly what I was doing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 with this part. But they had strung them all together so seamlessly and effortlessly, seemingly effortlessly, it now becomes something that was bigger than the sum of the parts. And they definitely didn't look like they were counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in their head either. And I've heard the same, I don't know anything about martial arts, but I heard it's the same thing. But you have a white belt, you're basically learning all these fundamental things that the black belt is just doing better. It's not that there's other things to learn. They have just embraced the whole thing. And so it becomes something that after years of practice becomes some kind of holistic practice. So that guy, Dr. Anders Ericsson, the researcher who developed the idea of deliberate practice, and where that whole idea of 10,000 hours came up, which was actually sort of populated by Malcolm Gladwell. So here's the thing about 10,000 hours, because that's a lot of hours. If you were to sort of put that as a barrier or as a goal, you'd be like practicing 3-4 hours a day for a decade, every day for a decade before you're even getting close. And you realize, well, most of us haven't. But you don't need 10,000 hours. All you really need to do is hit that point where your artistic practice is engaging to you now, that the actual process of doing it pulls you forward. I remember there was this talk that Buckminster Fuller gave, the designer. He said that if you've got a plane going at like 500 miles an hour, and you've got the rudder, which is like, 40 feet high at the back of a jet, and you want to turn to the left, you want the rudder to go over like this. But the fact is, the air resistance on a rudder 40 feet high on that plane, there's no engine inside, no motor on the inside that can possibly move that thing so that you can move the plane. So how do you do it? So they have this tiny little thing, this big, on the back of the rudder, that the motor's just big enough to pull that over. And once that's set up, then that sets up the condition to pull the whole rudder over, and you start to turn. So in a way, it's like that's what we want to reach in our own practice. We want to reach this point where that little rudder has pulled us over so that our engagement with our artistic practice is such that the whole thing, like our whole being, is now invested and it becomes part of our practice, right? But one of the fundamental things that Dr. Ericsson said is he completely debunked the idea of the gifted, the natural, and the prodigy. He said that some people have, and I think it's a really interesting quote, some people have a more natural comfort with progress in certain areas, right? That's how he would define talent. But the point is that that has nothing to do with mastery. Sometimes, and you know this, people have particularly talented and it comes to them easily and they get bored. I mean, I went to art school. I know there's masses of talented people that never gain mastery. Mastery is a mindset. and it brings really rich rewards. But it's a practice. It's not so much something that you do, it's something that you are, something that you become. So it's a part of your nature, so that you're an artist. You identify with, I'm an artist. That's what I am. And once that is in place, then it's just a mindset of what do I need to do and what am I going to explore and what really grabs my attention. So the path of mastery, we don't have a fixed goal. It's just at a certain point in that mastery, you start to learn more about who you are and what engages you and what you want to get out of this and what you want to express. And you become part of the whole equation. It reveals things about you that as you dig deeper into mastery, it teaches you more and more about yourself in a way. Be sure to sign up for my 4 themed videos each month for free. This month, the make it or break it role of edges. Next month, pushing abstraction. And when you sign up, you'll also receive the 20-minute video, again for free, 4 foundational principles to dramatically improve your painting. Go to ianroberts.com to sign up.